in the Republican caucus asked Madison Cawthorn to engage in orgies that were also fueled by cocaine use? That's what Meghan McCain is demanding to know. She wants Madison Cawthorn to specifically disclose the individuals who extended this kind of invitation to him. And for those of you who might have missed the initial statements coming from Cawthorn, why don't we take a look at what he had to say in a recent interview?
The sexual perversion that goes on in Washington. I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington, but the average age is probably 60 or 70. And I look at all these people, a lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys that, then all of a sudden you get invited to like, well, hey, we're gonna have kind of a sexual get together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove addiction in our country, and then you watch them do keep up with cocaine right in front of you, and it's like, wow, this is wild.
So we speculated that he's making this up mostly because he referred to it as like a sexual event. No, like I just feel like people who want to engage in orgies don't refer to it as, hey, you want to show up to our sexual event? But I don't know, I could be wrong. Now, Meghan McCain demands to know who has put out these invitations to Madison Cawthorn, tweeting, so Madison Cawthorn only hangs out with hardcore MAGA people in DC. The American public deserves to know which members of Congress are doing cocaine and having orgies because they are unfit for office. Should we all just start guessing the people he's talking about? And apparently there were enough Republican lawmakers disturbed by these claims that now Kevin McCarthy is going to have a talking to with Madison Cawthorn. Olivia Beavers reported this. She tweets that multiple sources tell me leader Kevin McCarthy says he plans to talk to freshman Representative Madison Cawthorn over his orgy remarks. Told several House Republicans stood up who are upset. They said it wasn't okay. They don't believe it. And she also tweets in that same thread, here, Representative Steve Womack stood up, said he hardly ever stands to talk. He has to say something about this because now he's getting questions about which members are partaking in orgies after Cawthorn suggested they are happening in DC along with the use of cocaine. Told Cawthorn not there this morning. Cenk.
I love this story. There are so many hilarious parts to it. One, as we pointed out yesterday, the podcast host's face was great, where he's like, okay, if you say so, brother. Okay, so he had to be really excited that the orgy news broke out on his show. And number two, so I've never been invited to an orgy. I don't know if I'm telling on myself there. So I don't know how the invites work. I don't know if they tap you on the shoulder, if there's a certain set procedure. But I'm with Anna. I would imagine, and he said they were like 60 to 70-year-olds or something along those lines, and people he admired for a long, long time. Like, I'm just having trouble picturing. And I've already started to speculate because it's fun, because I don't think it's true. So I'm not throwing anybody under a bus. I'm just having fun with it. Like Chuck Grassley, he's like 77 years old, right? God. Madison, man, the missus, we were wondering if you'd come to an orgy. We were thinking about doing the sex business, and I could tell you which positions we prefer. Come on, really? Really?
No, that's just, look, if he wasn't specific about the age group that he's referring to, because he's talking about older members of Congress, right? I think that it could be, it's not impossible, right? Because we have heard some reports about Matt Gaetz, for instance, that are a little concerning. Here, let me share this headline from CNN. Remember, he's, I don't know if he's still being investigated. There hasn't been any update on the DOJ investigation into possibly paying for sex with an underage girl. But in the middle of that investigation, certain headlines started popping up like this one. Gaetz showed nude photos of women he said he'd slept with to lawmakers, sources tell CNN. So, I mean, it's not so far-fetched when you really think about it. There are some Republican members of Congress who have been engaged in some shady stuff, allegedly. But with that said, I mean, Madison Cawthorn's claims, especially with the age group that he's targeting, do seem a little ridiculous. But I'm with Meghan McCain. I mean, if he's gonna make those types of accusations, you better show us receipts, you better name names, because those are serious allegations. Look, it's a place of work. These are people who have to show up. I mean, theoretically, they're legislating, although we know how lazy Congress really is. But fact of the matter is, if you have to show up to work with a bunch of people who allegedly invited you to a cocaine-fueled orgy, that's a problem.
Yeah, although the cocaine is a problem. If they want to have orgies on their own time, I don't really particularly care. I'd be surprised.
I don't either, but you can't ask, look, you can't ask your colleagues if they want to engage in orgies with you.
Well, that's fair. It is a workplace. It is a workplace. That is fair. Okay, so guys, there's an important component to this, right? So the reason why the Republicans, even the ones that normally do nothing, I love that description. They're like, that guy, he doesn't care about anything, right? But he even got up and got animated here. Why? Because remember, the QAnon people are on their side and they believe anything, right? So when you have a sitting United States congressperson saying they're doing orgies, every QAnon person is gonna believe that, right? So then they're gonna be like, and remember, they hate a lot of what they call rhinos, right? People that they think are not sufficiently insane within the Republican Party. So they'd be happy to believe that about the rhinos. So they're like genuinely excited. They're like, oh, who is it? Out the orgiers, right? And so, because they'll believe, I mean, isn't this hilarious, topsy-turvy world? We're on the left. I mean, if this got Republicans in trouble, we'd be thrilled about it. But I don't believe them. Whereas the right-wingers are like, yeah, it'll destroy their own side, but they're like, well, I mean, it's a wild conspiracy theory about sex. They jump in it. They're ready to believe it right away, right? So that's why these Republican politicians are really nervous about it. And now, one more thing about that. Guys, think about it. They're not wrong. Meghan McCain, forget the QAnon guys, but Meghan McCain, et cetera, are not wrong to ask questions here on their side. Because imagine if a Democrat had said this. Okay, now I feel bad even throwing out any name, but just to give you a sense of the fervor that would happen. If AOC said she was invited to orgies by senior Democrats and they did cocaine in front of her, this entire country would explode. And every right-winger would believe it to the end of time. So do they think Madison Cawthorn is a liar? That would be interesting. Or do they think, yeah, Republicans have orgies and do cocaine, don't believe a word that they said, and we're okay with it? That's a good question.
I just have to comment on the cocaine video that we have gathered for our very important news story here. It is important for you guys to know that when snorting cocaine, you don't do lines. You make sure that it's in the outline of a skull or other scary things, and then you snort it. That's the way that people do it. That's how normal people do it.
I don't know how Republicans roll with their cocaine. I just don't know. That does sound like it might be a Republican way to go. Guys, I do one serious note here. I do want to do a retraction from yesterday because we care a lot about getting it right. I said that there was a 0% chance that this story is true, except the cocaine part. But I'm going to retract that now because Edwin, our stage manager, who is usually the smartest guy in the room, after we got off the air, I said, Cenk, remember Matt Gaetz, which is what Anna brought up today. And I was like, oh, okay. Not a 0% chance that the orgy thing is true. There's some percentage chance it might actually be true. So Madison, you're on the hook now. Who is it? Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.